Welcome back, everybody, to the 19th hole live. This is week 4. We're at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, one of the most beautiful places on earth along the cliffs of the San Diego shoreline. 19th hole live, we're going to be doing some drinking, some spirits. We got some good whiskeys on hand. We have our resident Kyle Shanahan doppelganger here, Conor Coughlin at Cough_DFS. We're running hot. I mean, we're picking winners. I mean, John Rahm was a favorite that won. Make sure you like and subscribe to the In Between Media YouTube page. Make sure you jingle that bell for notifications. Here we go. 19th hole live. As we said before, this is the 19th hole live on In Between Media YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, jingle the bell for notifications. I'm Bo McBrayer, at Bo_McBigtime on Twitter. And of course, Conor Coughlin at Cough_DFS. We are running hot. We are the PGA experts that your mom told you about. We're winning money more than anybody else that I've seen out there. Even me, as somebody who's kind of newer to the golf wagering side of it, doing a little bit more of that side of the business this year. I'm running a profit this year, my God. I've turned a profit 2 out of 3 weeks, and I was told that this was hard because we got the longest odds in professional sports are in golf. So am I just crazy, or am I just carrying over from DFS dumb luck?
Well, first off, yeah, man, you are definitely crazy. Having hung out with you long enough to make that assessment.
Thanks, man.
But no, I mean, honestly, like you and I have been working together a little while now, and we're putting our brains together. And
it's been years now.
Isn't that nuts? It's it's a game that can be won if you're smart and you trust your numbers.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened to me last week, because I won with the golf wagering, but my DFS, I didn't trust my model. I ran my model multiple times. I got the same results, and I decided to pick and choose who I favored. And a couple of the guys that I left off, because there's no chance in hell that they were going to pop up for a reason, they ended up playing really well. Ricky Fowler and Jason Day. What the hell? What the hell? They popped up on my model. I didn't want to play them, so I didn't. And not only did they make the cut, but they made some noise.
Well, especially Jason Day. I mean, we made an absolute – well, I think we actually said the same thing about both of them. Just do not play these guys this week. And
it's not like they won people money, but it was definitely surprising to see them on the leaderboard on Friday and Saturday of all times.
Well, first 2 days watching Jason Day, I was like, oh, shit.
We were wrong.
Numbers were right.
Yeah, so trust your model, guys. I'm going to trust my model, even though it came up with some weird stuff again this week. I'm just going to let it ride, maybe expand the field out, because the way that we're going this week, it's the first real test on the tour. And let's, before we get into Torrey Pines and the Farmers Insurance Open, let's spin it back to the Amex last week. That was quite an interesting tournament. I want to revisit that just a little bit, because there's some weird stuff going on. So last week, like I said, I did pretty well on the betting side, thanks to Taylor Montgomery, the Mr. Putting extraordinaire, the best putter in the world right now. The guy just makes everything from all over the place. And that's kind of what my line of thinking was at the American Express, is if John Rahm's going to tongue-in-cheek call it a putting contest while simultaneously demolishing the field, I want the guys that make a lot of putts. And of course, John Rahm is a world-class putter, well documented, one of the best putters in the world. Taylor Montgomery, though, holy crap. And then there's this random guy named Davis Thompson, rookie off the Korn Ferry Tour, got his card just this year. I think I'd seen his name before, but I had never actually seen him play or seen him pop up on a leaderboard. Who the hell was Davis Thompson? Not only did he show up, but he made 5 eagles in the first 2 days of that tournament. And if not for the best player in the world right now and the hottest player in the world right now running hot, he probably would have won his first PGA Tour event. Davis Thompson, what's going on?
Yeah, and what the hell do you do with him too? Because like obviously the guy's got some chops. I mean, he played 4 solid rounds of golf last week, but you go in and you do any kind of research and he's not going to show up, and he still rates out like poorly, even after last week's performance. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a pinch your nose and plug him in or what you do this week with him. But
I'll tell you where he doesn't show up poor is par 5 scoring.
Dude, is that not crazy? Like, I'm just watching this guy stick it to 10 feet on all these par 5s, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me.
And really, I kind of got to where I could find a way where he was popping up in some of my models, because if I weighted par 5 scoring, which at Torrey Pines, par 72, 3 of the rounds are going to be at the South Course, which is 7,800 yards, 4 par 5s on the course. It's going to take long approach shots. And as well as he hit those long irons last week, those mid to long irons from 150 and upward, more in that 175 to 200 range, why not? Why not put Davis Thompson in there if he's not going to be too chalky? That's what I'm afraid of. But on the betting side, throwing a top 10 or top 20 bet at this guy, it's gotta make sense.
That's where my mind goes with him this week. I don't even know that I like him necessarily in DFS just because of his price and where I think he's good for a top 20, but I don't know if that returns value. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think on the betting side is where I might take some shots on Davis Thompson this week.
Yeah, and Torrey Pines, I want you to get kind of into the course layout here. We went over this. The South Course of Torrey Pines is an absolute bear, one of the longest courses on tour. The rough is lush and green and very long and thick because we've had so much rain in California from north to south. It's been a wet winter for us, and so the rough is growing out. It is tangly. It's that bent grass with the Poana greens. This is going to be a test. Like these, I have a feeling that you're going to have 3 or 4 of these favorite golfers kind of pop up and serve as world-class players, and then you're going to get a couple randos thrown in there, but it's a very top-heavy group of guys here to bet on. Any leans towards the, I mean, they are going to play one round at the North Course, but mostly I'm focused on the South Course. I want to see what these guys are made of on a course that's got lots of teeth.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the trick, right? Is that even these good guys, cream of the crop up top, we haven't had any kind of true test or challenge yet for these guys. So they look like they're playing like $1 million, but you put them on a very challenging course, and there's not a single guy in this tournament that is beyond missing the cut. I mean, John Rahm himself included. So
sure.
So I don't feel like this is like previous weeks where we've had very like safe, almost sure thing bets that you could make. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing too is, and I think we'll probably start to talk a lot more about this in coming weeks too, but this is a different PGA this year. There's a lot of guys that you've never heard of that you're going to have to get familiar with if you're going to play this game. And they're going to start popping up. I mean, you started seeing it last week where you've got guys that they've got game, but what have they ever done? Well, these are the guys that are going to be competing for trophies this year. So long shots are looking a lot less long, I'd say.
And if you look at the leaderboard from last year's Farmers, it was a tale of half of these guys that were in the top 20 last year. They're on live. They're not here this year. And so that's another thing is, like you said, you're going to have more new faces pop up on these leaderboards, even at a place like the Farmers, where typically the best golfers in the world tend to win this tournament. It's not your first time winner type place most of the time. But you're going to see some risers. We're going to see some rookies win this year. I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot of guys like, I mean, Scotty Scheffler at this time last year had 0 PGA Tour wins. What did he win? 5 or 6 tournaments last year?
Five.
So who's the next Scotty? We don't know yet.
I mean, my money, even after last week, is still on Cam Young being that guy by the end of the year. But
You gotta be.
But this
yeah.
week, this week,
hey, our friend Dee Dee's here.
Hey,
hi Dee Dee.
This week, I think it's either you play Rahm up top and you invest heavy on that plus 450 because we just saw him hit on, I think it was a lower number last week.
It was plus 650 last week from when I saw it. So right now, 450 or even 400 is what I've seen. 4 to 1 and 4.5 to 1 odds to win. That's Tiger status. That's like you're expecting him to win a quarter of the tournaments. And I know he has a lot of success at Torrey Pines. He's won here twice, including the U.S. Open. It's still, the odds are so short. I mean, I think we should run our little intro here. Make sure if you're not already, subscribe to the page on In Between Media. Click that button. This is Club Twirls. We're going to get into some golf bets, starting with John Rahm, of course. Was that guy in the middle always wearing a Gatsby?
I think so. They're just shooting us new videos every week. Those guys just get tighter and tighter.
I could watch Tiger shot tracers all day.
Oh yeah, seriously, just a little techno beat and Tiger hitting stripes.
Yep.
I skipped any kind of course breakdown, but I mean,
let's get right into it. I mean, you can parlay that right into who you like on this type of daunting, crazy test of golf. Torrey Pines it's nasty. It's nasty.
It is, but I think a lot of people think it's nasty for other reasons. Like I think, to be honest, Torrey Pines, especially the South Course, you got a lot of issues outside of the cliffs and outside of the water and all that. I mean, it's riddled with bunkers, not only in your target landing areas, but also around the greens. The rough is actually, it's like, I mean, it's got to be taller than it has been in previous years by, I would guess, an inch, maybe inch and a half. There's a lot of social media from players that are on the grounds showing how deep this rough is. So this is going to be an accuracy course to a T. And like I said, to be honest, you're going to want guys that have a good all around accuracy. So you're going to want good drives gained. You're going to want great approach game, especially from some of the proximities around 175 to 200 yards. This is Poana that Bo alluded to earlier. So it's kind of a funky grass. It lays a little weird sometimes.
I'm a California kid. I love Poana greens.
I haven't played a ton of them in my life. I do tend to like it too, but it is definitely a trickier read. It's a trickier roll.
Especially if you're on the afternoon and they're all crusted over.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's a real thing.
Because Poana like reseeds and regrows on itself later in the day, which is kind of a weird thing. You can trim it in the morning, and by the afternoon, it's already got some overgrowth to it. So
it needs no water to survive. Yeah. That's why it's in Southern California, where they're basically in a desert out there. So
it's a funky surface if you're not used to it. So yeah, I mean, not to really beat the dead horse on this, but I think that this course really calls for accuracy. Like I said, I think you see pictures of this course and you think, oh God, there's cliffs and there's water and there's wind and there's all this other stuff. And at the end of the day, this is really about target golf, and this is a true test of a well-rounded tee to green game.
The whole bag. That's what I wrote about this week. It's the first whole golf bag golf course that we've had on tour this season, and it's going to be even more so. The rumors I'm hearing is that other than the fairways being widened for the regular tour event, this is the same rough length that they had at the US Open when Rahm won, which is probably why he's getting even more steam on the lines at plus 450. That's ridiculous, guys. I don't know anybody who's betting John Rahm at plus 450. Do they think he has a good chance of winning? Of course, the guy's on fire, but the payout's just not there. Even if he does win, you're not getting anything for it. And you cannot convince me that he has a 25% chance of winning this tournament with how good this field is.
No, I'm not going to try to. I'm just saying of those top three guys. I mean, if you got the bankroll to throw down a significant amount of change on the plus 450, I mean, I think if you ran a simulator on this 1,000 times, I guarantee you John Rahm comes out winning it more than 4 times. So yeah, so I mean, I think he's got probably the best likelihood to win out of the guys up top. However, that's really short. And for me, I'll be starting out at Collin Morikawa at plus 2,000. So Morikawa to me,
You got a better line than I did.
what are you seeing? Are you 16?
18, yeah, 18 from Morikawa, and he's my favorite this week too. So elaborate. Why is Morikawa your favorite as well as mine?
I think Morikawa's got everything that Rahm has, just on a shorter scale. So Morikawa is not going to hit the ball quite as far, but his long iron game is actually a little bit better than John Rahm's. His approach game in general, from anywhere on the
Better.
course, is great.
He's top 3 in the world in approach, so it's no wonder.
Yeah, I think if there's anywhere with Morikawa that is hit and miss still in my mind, even though it's markedly improved, is it's his putting. And at least on the South course, I don't know that I'm terribly worried about putting, just because obviously you're still going to need to do it well. But this is the first look on POA this season for a lot of these guys. I think it's a good equalizer as a putting surface as well. So even if you've got guys that you like, but maybe their putting stats aren't quite as high as you want them, I don't know that I necessarily think that that's a make or break.
And it lends to the belief that a guy from Southern California who's played golf in California his entire life, Collin Morikawa, can put the lights out on POA. That's I like the guy just lights out every year at this tournament. Rahm's always in the top 10 in this tournament. Collin Morikawa is always in the top 10 in this tournament. We have guys all over this top of this board that are used to these greens. They're used to these types of layouts, the coastline layouts that you see here. They're unique to California, and that's why the West Coast swing is so special. It unlocks a different type of gameplay for these golfers, because once they hit Florida, it's going to be the same kind of tracks on the East Coast with the Bermuda and the Pete Dye designs that are going to just mind trick you into thinking you have a good line when in reality you're dealing with false fronts and lakes jutting out into the landing area. With here, it's just like you said, target golf, except target golf on a 7,800 yard
Right.
track. So you have to be accurate and long enough. I'm not saying it's a pure bomber course, because it's not, but you got to get guys that are tee to green as solid as possible. And that's why I do have Morikawa as the person I'm laying the most money on. And Tony Finau, I'm putting some money on too, because he's got that same kind of game. Where tee to green, the guy's just a monster. And if he gets a hot putter, like just with Morikawa, those two guys with their ball striking prowess, if they get a hot putter on these courses, they could leave everyone in their dust.
The only thing I'll add, and we didn't touch on it, and it's only one day, but it still does matter, is especially where Morikawa is concerned, the North course is still bent grass greens, and bent grass is not exactly Morikawa's preferred surface to putt on.
No.
So
thankfully it's a much easier course.
Right. The only other side of that is I haven't looked at the tee time splits though yet either. And Thursday is going to be pretty dicey conditions. At least it was looking that way this afternoon, with up to 25-mile-an-hour gusts. So that's definitely, not to belabor that. We can talk about it more if we need to, but the weather is definitely something you want to check. T splits are going to be important. And if you can, you're going to want guys going off the south on, well, tomorrow, instead of
I think the
Thursday.
opposite. See, I've been debating with this on Twitter with other people. There's a poll out. Would you rather have a guy play the easier course to get some good score, get a good score down on Wednesday, and then follow it up with a really nasty windy round at the toughest course by far in a hellish like landscape, or would you rather have them start on the tougher course in good conditions, post a decent score on the tougher course, and then at least have a fighting chance in the wind on the much easier north course? I think I'd rather have them play the south course in good conditions because it's not ungettable. You can have a good round in good conditions, but we're introducing scores in the 80s with 30-mile-an-hour winds at the south course, and I don't want my lineup to be dead from one guy playing one windy round at the south course.
Yeah, I see both sides of it. I think the reason I take the other approach on this is I don't think that this is like a 25 under winner. I mean, I
No.
think this is 11 to 15 under, is maybe even a smidge high, but and so that's kind of why I say, especially to get through the cut, I would much rather have my guys going off the tougher course in easier conditions. Um, just from the standpoint that, to your point, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you introduce an 80 round with the wind conditions. I mean, you got guys that could go over 80 on the
Yeah,
south course. So I think as far as my lineups, as far as my bets are concerned, I will probably skew towards having my guys going off the south in better conditions.
I agree with you. Say we're agreeing on it. But
DD
I
like
think
better.
maybe I can't help it. Um, any love for Max Homa? I'm going to throw a unit at him as an outright winner. He's jokingly semi-retired because he started a family. He's playing less tournaments this year, but I mean, the guy was red hot at the TOC at Kapalua. The South Course is kind of like a tougher version of Kapalua. It's got the cliffs and the scenery and the elevation changes and the long layout, but it's for me, it's Homa's game. The guy is just a monster scorer when he's on. And so I do like guys that can go low on tough courses. Homa's been doing that his whole career.
I do like Max, but there's a couple of things that kind of got me off him a little bit, and just he's hasn't been um, terribly accurate with greens and regulation, and he hasn't been very good at all from 175 and in, or 200 and in rather. I'm sorry, I read
Yeah,
that
fair enough.
backwards. But so not that those are make or break necessarily, but and it is Max Homa, who's an excellent golfer. Um, but
Friend of the show.
but yeah, that's I don't know. Those are cause enough for concern, and where he breaks out in my metrics, it's a little, yeah, it's a little far fetched, I think, for him to win, in my opinion.
You have anybody else in that kind of plus 2,000 range and above?
I probably not in that range, but getting down into the next range. Oh well, I did skip Taylor Montgomery, of course. I mean, I think Taylor
Yeah,
Montgomery,
lights
and
out better.
I'm seeing him all the way up to plus 3,000. So I think Taylor Montgomery.
He opened at 2,600, which I think is a little short for him.
I think so too. And if you just look what he's been doing, I mean, I don't see a whole lot changing. It's very consistent. You look at his 4 rounds last week. You look at his 4 rounds a week before. Like,
Oh, and
guy,
he would have won that tournament if he didn't have that splashdown.
yeah, somebody else would have won a lot of money had he not had some splash. But
Yeah,
I love him. I love him at the 28 that I'm seeing most places. But 3,000 even better, and it looks like you can get that over at. PointsBet still got that, and then the 28s are hanging around on like DK and a couple of, I think,
not
FanDuel.
bad.
So
I think it's a little short for me, but it's also possible for a guy that can putt like that. He's going to be at the top. You don't see guys like that fade away completely. Like he's going to be a cut making machine most of his career, and if he gets super hot like he did last week, then you could find him at the top of the leaderboard and competing. And down the wire, you want the guy that's making putts, and that's like we can't stress it enough. Taylor Montgomery is right now by far the best putter in the world, and that's crazy to say that. A few months ago, pretty much nobody had heard of him, but now that he's just keeps popping up on leaderboards. And I mean, he's gaining a stroke and a half a round on the greens. That's unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he's another guy that we've both been there since kind of what end of
Middle
last
of last
season,
year.
middle
Yeah.
middle of last year. I mean,
He showed up here last year, like out of nowhere. I'm looking through last year's leaderboard, and the dude finished in the top 20. Like what? That was early last year, and he was there.
dude, he's going to be big time. I mean, he's got every tool in the bag, and it's that putter is absolutely lethal. So
Yeah.
I love him, but getting down a little ways too. There was where'd he go? Keegan Bradley actually is somebody that
Keegan.
So I really do not ever back Keegan Bradley. However,
He's a
Keegan
fidgety
Bradley,
mess out there, but
he's at plus 6,000 and as high as plus 6,600 in spots. Keegan Bradley is a guy who
is
that
this
is
2014? Because if it was 2014, I'd be right there with you.
Hear me out for a sec on Keegan Bradley. So when he gets hot, he's a pretty good putter. He's got a very good approach game. He's actually fairly accurate off the tee as well. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is Keegan Bradley actually plays significantly better in windier conditions and on harder courses. So we don't have a whole lot of metrics to look at to compare that to over the last 36, but historically those hold up for Keegan. And he's a guy that I wouldn't want to take him in like a 20 under or more type of situation. But in where I think the end finishing score is going to end up, that's Keegan Bradley's sweet spot. And I really
He's a
do think,
grinder. He's a low ball flight grinder, and
and
he's a competitor, and he makes tough courses kind of just look easy when he's on. And I get it, because we all remember Keegan Bradley's heyday, where this guy's taking 3 years to hit each shot because he just can't get out of his own head, fidgeting and twitching and flipping his club over and over again, and he still does that stuff. But he's a lot more mellow, believe it or not, and he's still got game. He's older now. He's a little bit more surly out there. He's dead serious. Like I've never seen a more serious golfer out there on the tour. But I just don't know if he has the game anymore. I really don't.
to your point though about him being a lot more serious and calculated and all those things, he already did all the precision type stuff that I was talking about when he's on. And I think that that's only gotten better for him over the last probably 6-8 months as he's kind of learned to stay out of his own way. And I'm with you. He's definitely lost a step or two, but again, not needing the guy to shoot 20 plus under. That's definitely a possibility. So.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't really have anybody else that I'm picking out right until you get to Kurt Kitayama, and I know that you're going to agree with me wholeheartedly, because everywhere we look, every model I ran, and I try not to be a homer. I mean, I love Kurt Kitayama. He's from the same hometown. I played against his brother in high school. The story's been told, but Kurt Kitayama on this course measures out beautifully. This is like Siwoo at Wailai. This is really that perfect match where you're like, oh, we want a guy who's long off the tee, check. The guy averages 315 yards a drive. We want a guy who's deadly accurate with long and mid irons, check. He's top 10 from 200 plus, and he's top 15 from 175 to 200. And he's great around the greens. He's number 6 in strokes gained around the greens. So you get a guy who, if he misses, he's going to be able to scramble around and make pars and avoid the bogeys that can kill you on these courses. It just seems like we're crazy to think that Kurt Kitayama can't show up here at 90 to 1 outright, but I have him for a top 5, top 10 bets because I think that he's going to show up, and he's another guy like Keegan, where he's a young Keegan, where the tougher the course, it seems like the more he grinds down and says, hey, I might not win the tournament if it's 20 or more under par, but if it's 10 to 15 under par, and you're saying, hey, put some fours on the card and don't put any squares and pictures on the card. And that's kind of Kitayama's game, is he's going to make 3 or 4 birdies around, and at the end of the day, he's going to be at the top.
100%. I will say this is where I'm taking my shots on Kitayama. I will not be touching him in DFS because he is on literally every single article that you will read this week. However, BetMGM.
I gotta apologize because I started the storm last year.
I'm just looking though. I mean, Kitayama's number is sliding all over the place. It's down to as low as 6,500, but you can still get it at plus 10,000 in certain spots. So
yeah, I got it at 9,000.
Don't walk, run to the window and get your Kitayama bet in, because just like everybody in the DFS community, analytics wise, that is saying that he's got a very good shot at winning the tournament. I definitely agree with that. But I'll fade the ownership chalk over on that side and make an investment.
It's unruly.
Make an investment over here, because I do believe that he's got a pretty good shot at this.
Yeah, and I don't know that DFS wise if he's going to score enough DFS points unless he's in the top 10. He's not that type of golfer where you still see him in the mid 60s and DK points a week, because even when he makes the cut easily, he's not making a lot of birdies. He's just plugging right along, taking advantage of par fives, and then he's scoring well enough to keep his card and keep popping up and cashing checks. But it's kind of these types of events where you're like, hey, this is this kind of sweet spot where these kind of guys, like the younger guys with a lot of promise and a lot of game, can kind of bolster their career. But yeah, DFS wise, chalk, there's not enough meat on that bone for the chalk this week. Even though I love him in betting 90 to 1, that's why I got him at 90 to 1. So I'm going to take that and run to the sports book with that, because I do think he has the chops to win this thing because he's got the game. I also took a really long shot, 200 to 1 on Aaron Rai, who was a good final round last year from winning this damn thing. He was one back of the lead going into Sunday, shot even par. A couple guys shot 66 last year. Luke List was the guy that got into the playoff. I believe it was with Homa, wasn't it? Yeah, so Homa and List made the playoff. List, of course, made the birdie on the playoff hole to win the thing. Only putt he made all week. Still, he's just a phenomenal ball striker, and found some cups that week to win. I don't like Luke List at all. I'm just throwing it out there that Aaron Rai could have won this tournament if he had a good Sunday round, which he had an okay round at 72, but to finish only 2 strokes back in a tie for 6th last year, there's something about guys where a course fits their eye. And Aaron Rai has been playing really well lately. He's been popping up more and more. He's got the bomber status. Like, he's not the longest hitter. He's like 290, 295, but dead straight. This guy is an accurate player. Kind of what you're looking for. I think adequate length and a really good putter. I think that Aaron Rai at 200 to 1 is just too long of an odds for a guy who's played this course extremely well. He had 2 rounds in the 60s here at the South Course last year.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any argument out of me. Aaron Rai rates out really well for me this week too. So no need to beat the dead horse.
Who's your long shot guy? You have any long shots down there?
Not that I'm going to be spending a lot of money on. If you can find a number, I mean, I like Nico again. I liked what I saw again last week. So if you can find a pretty deep number on Nico.
He didn't even make the 54-hole cut.
Understood, but I had a whole week to look at more stats on this guy and more like World Tour stats and stuff like that.
He made 3 birdies in 3 days and missed the cut by 6 shots, but I like him.
It wasn't that bad. He shot 6 under on the 3rd day. But again, the more that I've done researching on him and the more I've looked at some of the World Tour stats, and now seeing how long he's actually been out there grinding, I had a good feeling last week. I got a better feeling this week. So I would throw a super deep $5 or $10 bet on Nico
I see your Nico
Echevarria.
Echevarria, and I'll raise you a Goya because Goya actually played well last week. And not only made the cut, but he was up in the top 20 last week.
Just mark my words, brother. You're going to see Echevarria.
You what? Watch Goya. Let's a little side action here. I say
in.
Goya finishes higher than Nico Echevarria.
I'm in.
You're in? All right. $5. Let's go.
$5.
It's a beer.
I'll buy you a
You
beer.
know my Venmo.
Speaking of buying you a drink, I know you're drinking something very classy. I will say last minute, I switched to something very non-classy. I had a little bit of a sweet tooth. So I switched over to the dough ball.
Ooh, that's the cookie dough whiskey, yeah.
And if you haven't had this, it's an excellent shooter when you're out getting trashed.
It's a dessert whiskey, and it's probably not even real whiskey, but it's so delicious.
I don't know. It says whiskey on the bottle. They don't lie.
Yeah, well, they also call Fireball whiskey, and it's not. So
you're getting sued over that. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean they should. It's false advertising. It's not even whiskey. There's actual rules to call something whiskey, and Fireball is well short of it. There's more antifreeze than whiskey in Fireball.
I will say, tasting this, there's definitely whiskey. It's definitely whiskey, but it really does taste just like cookie dough.
Well, it's complementary flavors. That's the best part is the whiskey flavors, the vanilla, the caramel goes really well with cookie dough. So, I mean, of course it's going to be delicious. And shooting that stuff is dangerous because it sneaks up on you quick.
Whiskey connoisseur drinking this trash, but
hey,
I'm telling you, it's a good time. It's tasty.
We've all been there. I got the hard to find but always delicious Eagle Rare.
My favorite.
I went with Eagle Rare because of Davis Thompson with his 5 eagles in 2 rounds. Just ridiculous. So Eagle Rare, it's rare to make 5 eagles in 2 rounds. Pretty sure it's never been done before. He did it at a real PGA Tour event. Kudos to the guy that we barely heard of.
Cheers to you. We've never heard
Cheers
of
to you, Davis Thompson. I'm going to polish this bottle and try to find another one soon. They're not easy to find. All right, let's say we move on to DFS with no trunk slams.
The club is well. This would be a wrestling slam.
Well, I mean, we didn't spin it back too much last week's Amex DFS because it wasn't pretty. When the chalk wins, it's usually not pretty for us DFS types because we're usually trying to fade that stuff. The John Rahm chalk won, and then everybody else at the top of the leaderboard, except for Taylor Montgomery, they were a bunch of randos with less than 2% ownership. So we got our asses handed to us in DFS. Sometimes it happens that way. However,
did you
Farmers Insurance Open.
Did you happen to see that the guy that took down the 100K one
had Davis Thompson?
Not only do you have Davis Thompson, he had Rahm, he had Schauffele, he had who else did you call out? I think you mentioned Chris Kirk, or you might have the week before. But Rahm, Schauffele up top, and then just got stone cold lucky and hit the other 4.
Well, you have to at the Amex. It is a crapshoot, and that's all I'm going to say is that sometimes the crapshoot it pays off for a random dude that played the chalk and then threw in some random guys at the bottom, and it pays off. That's the nature of DFS. But I have a feeling that it's a lot less crapshooty here at the Farmers because we're going to have to nail down the 2 guys at the top that are going to cost you 9.5 and above, and that are going to compete for this trophy. I think there's going to be 3 or 4 guys up there at the top price that are going to be out there all week long. And then you're going to have your top tier guy that's going to outright miss the cut. It's just going to happen. One of these guys at the top is going to just snowball himself out of the tournament. And then you're going to have maybe 1 or 2 guys below 8K that are going to make a run at this thing. I think it's going to be really concentrated. So if you have a solid core of players and you hit on that core of players, you're going to win money this week. I have a feeling that you won't need 6 out of 6 making the cut this week as much as you're going to need the winner. you're going to need the winner of this tournament this week.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see people like cashing with 4 and 5 out of 6. I mean,
Yes.
I definitely agree with you. But hopefully we can help you get 6 out of 6 and you make some real money. We'll see.
And pick the winners because we're good at that.
Yeah, that's so I've been told.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to kick off 10K or you want me to go?
Well, I mean, John Rahm's up there 11.6. He is 1,100 more than the next highest price, which is unprecedented. I haven't seen anything like that before. I've seen guys over 11K, but I haven't seen guys over 11K when nobody else is above 10.5. So if you're going to roster John Rahm, I have a feeling his chalk won't be as heavy because of the price and because it's really tough to build a justifiable lineup around him, as well as the cost savings of going down from him to somebody else is a big difference.
The club.
Sorry.
We just wanted to see the clip again. You would be amazed, actually. I just refreshed the calculated ownership metrics that we use. Rahm is just a smidge below 20% right now.
Yikes.
Which is crazy to think.
I saw him as high as 27 yesterday, which led me to believe that I wasn't going to touch him. But with him down there, out of all my lineups, I'm going to have him in one lineup. I'm going to have him in one.
Yeah,
just to feel something.
I'll have some Rahm just because, I mean, he's live to win. We've already talked about it. But yeah, that 10-11K area, like it is really, really chalky. Like everybody.
It's obvious why, because these are all the guys that are going to be there at the end of the day. This tournament is going to be about who you get down the road that's not as chalky, that makes the cut, that puts forth some birdies. I have a feeling that it's going to be less important to have the right guy up at the top tier, unless that guy's just an outright winner. Like if that guy, if you get Will Zalatoris, for example, and he wins the tournament, and then you have a bunch of other guys that make the cut, then you're going to be fine. But that price range, that 10K price range, is really tough to deal with because everybody's going to have two of those guys. Everybody is going to have two of those guys because they're not going to want to miss out on the sure thing where the better golfers are technically a lot more likely to win this tournament.
But I will say this, you're right. However, if you're playing guys up that high, I hope you've got a good strategy for down below, because I, for one, don't have a whole lot down there that I like enough.
It is ugly.
And my favorite play of the week, which we already talked about, is Collin Morikawa. And Collin Morikawa is only projected to be 10.4%. And
he's in every single one of my lineups. So
I love Morikawa. I love starting out at 10 flat. I can probably stay out of the sixes pretty easily at 10 flat. So Collin Morikawa, I will easily be overweight on that. I would say I'm starting probably half my lineups with Collin Morikawa. So rates out excellent.
I'm looking at all my lineups, and there is the only one without Collin Morikawa is my Rahm lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Morikawa rates out number 2 in my mixed condition model. Excellent in pretty much every metric we're looking at. I didn't weight putting this week. That probably would have drug him down a little bit. But even still, to Bo's point, he's experienced on these surfaces enough. I think he's going to feel at home. The rest of his game, hard to poke any holes in it. So you can put a big star next to Collin Morikawa, because that, I believe, is your tournament champion for this week.
Well, we felt that way at the Century, and we were right up until about 8 holes left, and that was tragic. I could have won a lot of money with that, but I digress. Collin Morikawa, this is his week because he's too good to not keep coming back to eat, especially at tougher courses like this where ball striking is a premium. He's the best there is, bar none. This guy flushes everything. He's accurate. He's long. He's just what we want for this tournament. I completely agree with you. I do want a little bit of a sprinkling of other world-class ball strikers like Will Zalatoris. I'm gonna get some Tony Finau mixed in. If I'm gonna venture down into the sub sevens and just pray, I'm gonna have the Finau Morikawa stack, and then just get weird down at the bottom. But at the same time, I'm kind of mixing and matching where I want to see how many of these top guys I can fit in with a respectable lineup, and then at the same time I want to do a Morikawa just standalone at 10 and then go all the way down to the mid 8s and then build down from there so I can get a more solid core of players that I feel more comfortable making the cut and making a run at this. But yeah, the mainstay is Morikawa, and then going with other guys in my model that popped up ball striking wise. That was at a pretty evenly weighted model this week, but tee to green, proximity, those were all the things I was looking at the most heavily.
So I looked at very specific distances on par fours, predominantly the ranges that we have on this course. I did look at the proximity that we talked about, 175, 200 ish. And my big emphasis were good drives gained, greens and regulation, overall approach. Like I said, I do not want my guys in the rough. I don't want them in sand traps. I just want shot in the middle of the fairway, shot to the middle of the green, putter two,
and enough length to get there with with a chance. So it's not like you're out there playing Kisner and Harmon if they were here. You're not playing the little poke stick guys because they're not going to be those types of guys that are accurate but not long enough. They get eaten up at this course.
I love Kisner though. I always play Kiz at least one lineup.
I do too, but this ain't his type of place.
No, this ain't it. Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris, I do want to touch on just quickly. So we were big fans of Zalatoris last year. I think Zalatoris is a good golfer. I talked about this last week with him versus Cam Young, and there's a couple other players as well on the tour that I just think ultimately are going to be better golfers than Zalatoris. I think he's fun to click. I think people are enamored with him, but quite honestly, I mean, finished in 36 last week. And prior to that, he really hadn't done anything super noteworthy either. And he's coming in at 24% projected rostership, like at $9,700. Like, dude,
no thanks.
I'm going to be a hard pass on Zalatoris.
I'm glad you're telling me these projected ownerships, because Fantasy National is pulling from the biggest database of actual users,
active players.
Yeah. So that's as appealing as it is to put Zalatoris in your lineup. The guys around him are equally capable of taking this thing down. I mean, you can go down to JT, who's at the sucker price of 9,400. Like, what the hell is that? 9,400? Are they just asking for him to be 35% owned? And it's still not even happening.
Do you worry with JT that the ball flight might be an issue at this course? Like,
he doesn't play well here, so I'm not really enamored with him on this course. But that price is crazy low for him. I'd rather have Sung Jae myself. 9,300. Taylor Montgomery at 92 is a little overpriced, which I think is nice because DFS wise, if a guy's overpriced, he's probably not going to get too much chalk. But Sung Jae on this type of course, he tickles me. Like Sung JM on this type of course, he's an absolute maniac on approach.
He's played well here, I believe. I think I was looking
and then
at that.
You get Homa at 91. I love Hideki at 9,000. This whole area, even Siwoo's playing out of his mind right now at 89. Another guy who's overpriced to the point where he's not going to be chalky. I mean, if you're
I'm on him.
Woo! But I mean, it's just for me, this whole group between 8,500 and 9,500 is stacked. And so you might want to just kind of throw some random darts through this group, because if Zalatoris is that chalky up at 97, then that really bodes well for us to get some leverage in this really solid group of golfers.
And at the end of the day, like I said, I like Zalatoris. I think he's a strong player. Probably a shoe-in for T15, T10, somewhere in there.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't think the win equity is better than Morikawa. I think Morikawa, if I got to make a choice up top, I'll take 15% less rostership with a player who, quite frankly, is head and shoulders above Zalatoris to begin with. So yeah, we don't need to beat the hell out of Zalatoris, but he's definitely a popular play. He's definitely a good golfer. I'm not telling anybody don't play him, but just know you've got to load up on him to get over the rest of the tournament.
I mean, okay, so as we go down through the eights, it starts to get a little sketchy here. A lot of people I've heard are on Mav McNeely. I love the guy, but no way.
Out.
I like Sahith Theegala way more. He's a SoCal guy through and through. He's a scoring machine on tough courses. We saw what he did at the Waste Management, which is a kind of a similar track. To be honest, it's not as tough as Torrey Pines, but getting a guy from the area used to the Poana greens, I like him a lot more in that range. JJ Spawn, way overpriced, but he's playing really well this year. Cam Davis, you couldn't pay me enough to roster Cam Davis this week. And then Keegan Bradley, I know you're on, but I'd rather play Adam Hadwin.
I don't mind Hadwin. I like the ball flight of Keegan better is all. I mean, that's what it comes down
Yeah,
to.
definitely lower ball flight, more piercing, more methodical.
They rate out so close to each other in most metrics as I'm looking at them. Like, I think you're fine playing either of them. I just prefer the shot shape and trajectory of Bradley.
And then we have the paradox that is Luke List, the defending champion, at 8K flat. No, absolutely not.
No. Luke
Don't do it. There's not a chance in blue hell that he's repeating. I would venture a guess he's more likely to miss the cut this week than to win again.
If Luke List wins this week, I will do this show topless next week.
Oh God, don't threaten us.
I will say down there though, Hayden Buckley playing excellent.
Hayden Buckley, baby. There we go. We got an agreement.
It's a great price on him. Fourth in my modeling. He's
playing great right now. He's playing so well.
Freaking top 10 in almost every metric I looked at. I mean, he's in better favor on my model than even Morikawa is. So Hayden Buckley at 8K. I think that's a pretty solid play. Especially when you look at who's around him. I mean, Justin Rose, who freaking knows? Luke List, no. So yeah, and you already touched on that. I like Keegan this week, so those are probably my two in the 8Ks. To be honest, I don't have a whole lot going in the 8K. I may buy into some of the J-Day hype and play a couple of lineups with some J-Day.
We learned our lesson last week. Sorry, Jason.
And he's still rating out well, so
I know can't avoid it. I mean, the guy pops up and then he keeps proving us wrong. And,
so
and maybe it's like Keegan Bradley though, because Jason Day and Keegan Bradley were the dueling forces back about 8 years ago, and they were just unstoppable going at each other. And now that here they are back again to taunt us with great metrics and like, oh well, what has he done for us lately? Well, not much until 6 months ago.
Not much yet, and then one of them will pop off and win. So
how much chalk is Davis Thompson getting?
I'm going to look at it for you, and I wasn't going to let us skip over him. I mean, what the hell do you do with him? I mean, do you play him?
The price is great. It's kind of in that dead zone. So if you're building towards the middle, I don't mind it.
People are looking at him. As far as people constructing lineups are concerned, 22% of people have him in their pool. Only 7% have actually pulled the trigger and rostered him. So that to me says two things. People are probably seeing the exact same thing that I'm looking at, where, yep, he had a career day or career week last week.
47th in my model.
Yeah, he's down there on mine too. I am going to take a pass on Davis Thompson.
Yeah, because just below him at 200 less and way more chalky is our boy from NorCal, Kurt Kitayama. I am so mad that he's chalky this week. God damn it.
I mean, he's not. It's not.
I'm
Horrible.
still gonna play him in single entry though.
Let me figure out what he is exactly. I'll tell you.
In a GPP, you couldn't pay me to play a chalky guy down that price, but in a single entry, he's my guy. He's my guy. I'm not gonna shy away from him just because he's popular.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play him, and he does set up really nice here. Like
He was 6th in my model, and if we're talking 6th in my model, and Buckley was 5th, Rahm was 10th. Rahm was 10th in my model, and Finau and Morikawa are at the very top. But it was crazy to see. Like no matter what I finagled and tweaked, Kitayama was like 5th or 6th in every single one I ran.
So I had no problem getting him a little lower on my modeling than that. All I had to do was look at good drives gained, and
Yeah.
that is probably the concerning piece of Kitayama. The other concerning piece is
60th in good drives.
Yeah, he's 90th over the last 36. But that's, I mean,
He hits it long, but
tee to
accurate.
green, he makes up for it. He's 15th in this field over the last 36 tee to green total. So as long as he can get out of this rough, okay, I'm not super concerned. But
he's a grinder, man.
He is,
He's like I said, he's the young Keegan. He's the grinder, the low ball flight, strong upper body. He's got the stuff.
He is getting up there in rostership, though. I mean, he's creeping on 14-15%, which
I can deal with that. Though.
I can, but right below him, price wise, or same price actually, I'm probably going to take a couple stabs at Thomas Dietrich. Actually, his par 4 scoring is excellent. The other thing I like about Dietrich is he's another guy that's able to play a low ball flight. Plays actually better on hard courses, better in windier conditions. So I kind of like his game for this particular week. Thomas Dietrich is not a guy I'm probably going to bring up a whole lot of times.
No,
but the nice thing about him too is if you're playing 10 lineups, you only got to throw him in a couple with your core players you like. And I mean, he's going to come in at 4% owned. And no disrespect to Kitayama or Fowler or Sebastian Munoz, who played well, but Dietrich probably has a better game for this course, especially given the conditions it could potentially be kicking up on Thursday. So Thomas Dietrich is somebody you can play to get a little bit different in that 7K range.
Tell me about the guy who popped up 7th in my model, Nick Hardy at 7,400. Because I couldn't figure out why.
If it's anything, it's his overall tee to green game. He actually has a pretty damn good approach game. He's usually on my modeling, he's about 14th overall. But tee to green,
pretty damn good for a guy at that price.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And actually in the 7Ks, he's one of the best. The only person better overall tee to green right now is Brendan Steele, which I was going to get to in a second. But yeah, I mean, Nick Hardy pops up from time to time. My biggest issue with Nick Hardy here is that most of your par 4s are going to be 400 to 450. You've got a couple that are 450 to 500, and
there's a couple over 500.
Yeah, well, that too. He's just not good on longer par 4s, and there's just no way to sugarcoat that. I even backed that stat up a little bit to 50 rounds, and he doesn't get any better. So I'm probably going to skip Nick Hardy, and I'll probably, like I said, go down to Brendan Steele. Brendan Steele actually rates out number 1 in approach, number 2 in tee to green, number 3 in greens and regulation, number 1 in proximity from 175 to 200 yards. And he's right there in the top 20 for the driving metrics I looked at, as well as the par 4 ranges I looked at. So that's a name that I can honestly tell you I don't know that I've ever rostered in DFS, but
right, except at Pebble Beach. The guy owns Pebble Beach.
So Brendan Steele.
Yeah, and Ben Griffin popped up at 7,300, and the guys that pop up in those lower prices, I can kind of chalk it up to maybe they had a couple metrics that kind of popped up, or I had it too heavily weighted on one thing. But those are just a couple of the guys that popped up really well. Getting down, there's not much below 7K that you can feel comfortable about, which is why we were saying it's really nice to not have to worry about plugging Rahm in there with somebody and forcing yourself to pick one of these poison pills under 7K. But Kevin Yu is playing extremely well this year. He's 6,900. His price just won't go up, no matter how well he plays. He keeps playing well. So he was fourth in my model, and I could see why. There's the guys that popped up that were more expensive in the 7K range. I couldn't explain. I didn't want to play them. Kevin Yu popped up high, and I got excited because I ran it a few different ways, and it was like, oh, this guy's just playing good golf. And he's not a long hitter, but he's an accurate player. So I'm going to take a shot on Kevin Yu this week.
Okay. Yeah, you let me know how that goes.
You're not going to do it.
No, I will be a pass on that. And I don't know if Didi is still on, but I legitimately, before we completely leave the sevens, will be playing Callum Tarrant this week.
Oh my God.
Number 6 in my model overall.
He can't hit the ball straight.
Apparently
you just said all this about accuracy off the tee. And the guy is a bomber for sure, but he can't find a fairway to save his life.
So actually last week, even though he missed the cut, the only thing that he did correctly was hit the ball straight. But more importantly than that, Callum Tarrant's another guy that actually his preferred conditions are extra difficult courses, extra windy.
Well, he's an Englishman, of course.
Yeah, the only slight on him is going to be not a whole lot of familiarity with POA, so that could be
as
a
in
problem.
None.
but he does fit the bomber narrative. Averages 312 off the tee. Driving accuracy is teetering right around 60, and then greens and regulation 68 to 68 and a half, depending on where you look. He's also been putting fairly decently. So, in seriousness,
if you have an extra $200, play the other Englishman, Aaron Rye. We already talked about him.
However, Aaron Rye is going to be more owned. So I'm probably going to play some Callum Tarrant this week in seriousness. So anyways,
good luck with Callum Tarrant. You can have him.
Right below him, Taylor Moore, somebody who's has had a fairly good 12 months. Consistency is starting to get there a little bit. Very middle of the road in almost every stat we looked at. But 6,900, he does rate out 25th in my model. I don't foresee myself getting down here often, but I think Taylor Moore, when you look at the people around him, definitely offers you the most cut equity. So made cut equity. Jesus, sorry.
Yeah, I've been kind of sprinkling when I am forced to play a guy down here. I've played a little bit of Cole Hammer, which you've talked about more than I have. I'm not sure how good he is on a tough course like this, but he's a young guy with some flashes, so we'll see what happens there. Justin Lower has been pretty solid lately. 6,900 seems a little low for him, especially since he made the cut last week. Put together some good scores. Harry Hall's popping up. I'm not interested. Doug Gim seems to always play well at these types of places for no reason at all, because he doesn't play well anywhere else. And then Austin Smotherman played well here last year, but jeez, it's a who's who of, I don't know who that is.
I got a legit one for you down here.
Okay.
That you haven't heard of. Outside of Nico, who I've already touched on, I will play some Nico again. Patrick Welch, Oklahoma Sooner. He's only got one measured round on the PGA at this point. However,
6,300 made the cut.
However, 317 yards is his average driving distance. Driving accuracy, 65%. Greens in regulation, 77%. And this is a guy that last year in collegiate golf won one tournament, had 7 top 20s. He is the fifth highest top 10 earner that ever played for Oklahoma.
Huh.
And this is like, he's a legit collegiate golfer that probably a lot of people don't know about. And at that price, the guy bombs the ball. He's accurate. And he's got an excellent short game.
That's the only event that is on his history is the Shriners back in October, and he made the cut and finished 28th.
And then he's got a handful of collegiate appearances. He's got some open appearances, so on and so forth. But if you look at his total World Amateur Golf ranking metrics, he very, very rarely finishes outside of the top 15. So this is he's a legit player. And this course sets up really nicely for him. Acknowledging it's a very deep dart throw, but he's got
very deep.
He's got all the tools, and he competes very successfully at a collegiate level. So this is somebody who's okay with pressure. So if you find yourself down there, he's a hell of a lot better than some of the other guys around him.
Yeah, and I'll throw a couple darts at Tano Goya from Argentina at 6,200. Final round 64 last week to finish 26th at the Amex. He's got game. He's really streaky though, so it's going to be really hard to see him making 24 birdies like he did last week. But I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for at DFS, is a guy that can get hot and do something for you, especially if you're that desperate and you only have 6,200 left to spend. It means you load it up at the very top and you got nothing left.
Hey, run and bet $5 on Patrick Welch and get your 1,000,000 to 1 shot.
Right? Yeah. Oklahoma. All right. Well, I mean, this is the 19th hole live. We want you guys to win with us. Tail us, send us DMs on Twitter. We're good for it. At least I am. Make sure you like and subscribe to the In Between Media YouTube page. I believe they've already started the IBT football show. Go over there, patronize that show, hit the like button. We're going to do it again next week. We're going to spin it back again. Hopefully I'll be winning again. Tano Goya over. Who'd you have? Echeverria again? Come on, man.
You just Venmo me now, man. I'm telling you.
No, man. It's a one-way street. All right. Let's get out of here with the outro. Thank you for joining us. Man, now I lost it. Thanks. Producer extraordinaire.